is Your Holy and Virtuous Heretic. So Your Holy and Virtuous Heretic is an atmospheric turn-based RPG. You play as the demon summoner Oleaster, and he tries to summon a powerful demon called Ashmedai. When he tries to summon Ashmedai, Ashmedai escapes, and in the process creates a gateway into the demon world. And so playing as Oleaster, you kind of follow Ashmedai into this strange and abstract demon world, interacting with other demons and trying to bring them into your ranks as you work your way towards the center of hell. So the game has this turn-based combat system that's basically designed around a couple of different systems, but the main one is alchemy. And so all of the items that you pick up in the game, you can apply those in different ways using these kind of special spells called techniques, which augment how an item works. So for example, the normal like healing item also applies this kind of weak poison to you, which you can kind of like shrug off and keep healing, but you can also apply that item to an enemy, and that might seem counterintuitive to heal them, but being in this like poison state means that you can then take advantage of different like weaknesses and properties, like all of the items in the game work like this, where they have multiple different uses and can put these enemies in different states of like status effects. And so this kind of forms this kind of like almost like a systemic like alchemy system, where you don't just like exploit enemies' weaknesses, but you create new weaknesses, and enemies can do the same to you. You can also talk with every like enemy in the game, and you know the objective of that is usually to bring them into your like party, kind of in the style of something like Shin Megami Tensei. But that isn't always like a super straightforward task. Some enemies that's fairly simple. Some have like different requirements where they'll only join you once, for example, like all of their friends are gone, or some will refuse to like join you if you resort to violence at any point, or some want to have like a specific item. And so by having these like bespoke little like dialogue interactions, that becomes another sort of like aspect of what I was talking about earlier, where people have like slightly different experiences between playthroughs. Yeah, I'm thinking if there's anything else I can kind of go off about. Let's see. All of the enemies are based on the demons of the Asgoesha. So the Lemegeton, it's a sort of real-life demonological grimoire with kind of like a troubled history. But part of the game's narrative is exploring like what that means and what the implications of the Asgoesha as it exists, like, and what does it mean to be a demon summoner in particularly the 19th century. Yeah, so that aspect of the narrative is really interesting, and I'm hoping there's an aspect to which things are mysterious enough that different people will stumble across different characters, different secrets, and it's kind of deceptively like simple. The game doesn't have like really major like branching story beats, but it does have this idea of the like your perception of the story, of the mechanics, of the characters, and like changing depending on what you do and don't see, and kind of trying to create this feeling that there's more things hidden in the world than what you can see. There's kind of more going on than what you can find. I think my hope with both the story and the gameplay is that whether you put like just a little bit or a lot into it, you'll find something to enjoy. The game is like always balanced to be playable without like it's difficult, but it's balanced to be like playable with like sort of like imperfect like skills, imperfect play. But I was really inspired to reward a really like deep understanding of the mechanics. If there's something you think you can like get away with, something that you feel like you can even exploit, chances are you can. and I've discovered it and left it in there because I thought that dynamic was like really interesting. I was very much inspired by the potion creating mechanics in Morrowind, how they kind of let you achieve these like almost like broken states of having like, okay, I've crafted a like potion which makes me better at crafting potions, and I can do that over and over again until for 1 second in time I have level like 100 like alchemy, and then I use that to create a potion that all of a sudden gives me like infinite strength. Those kinds of like unintentional but like rewarding like gameplay opportunities. Like there's a level to which I intentionally create enough like fuzziness in the gameplay systems to let the player have some of those like kind of wins. I've always been really interested in narrative design. I come from a background as a game design student, and I felt that was always a kind of muscle that I never really got to flex. And so first and foremost, I wanted to make something where I could poke around at the edges of like narrative design and narrative storytelling in games, and have some experience, giving players different types of agency. Aside from that, I've always had an interest in the occult. I've got a long history of a very like religious family, and as you do as a like teenager, you always find yourself drawn to the things that most sort of forbidden. And I think that kind of dynamic itself is replicated a little bit in the character of Aleister. In that there's something that he's kind of told that he can't have in terms of the power of this like powerful demon, and he's willing to do almost anything to get to it. And so yeah, it's kind of that mix of wanting to explore the narrative design aspect, explore my interest in the occult, and also create a kind of like character study in the form of an RPG. I started it in like while studying at university, which is an interesting decision. It wasn't really a part of my course, but because I just wanted to, kind of create something in that direction with a more narrative angle to it compared to the very like sort of like mechanicsy, designy things that I was making in uni. I kind of like started it parallel to all of my uni stuff, and so it's had this kind of weird like cross progression. And it started off as like really basic. You're really supposed to start by making like gameplay mechanics. Instead, the first thing I made was like the opening cutscene, and then kind of based on the like positive reactions I got from that, I started to take the project further and further and further. And I'm graduating soon. It's going to outlive my degree, hopefully not by too long. So it's very much been this journey of like learning things about game design through working on it, parallel to learning things about games design and programming in a more formal context. So that's been really interesting. I think I did a talk a while ago where I had there's this concept called the iron triangle, which is like you've got your like 3 points and you can only pick 2, and then as a solo developer you can only pick 1. And then if you need to like work while being like a solo developer, then okay, you got like a square, right? Imagine like an iron square. But I also had university, which means I made some kind of like weird, like screwed up, like pentagram of like iron triangle. So that's kind of how it's been for about the past 2 years. But I'm, going forward, I'm going to be simplifying my life a little bit, and that's going to make things, much easier. So I'm coming out with a demo. That's going to be I've been like trying to do that for a while now. University, as you can imagine, like does some things to your schedule. But I'm looking to release a demo early next year, and then hopefully I'll be finishing and releasing the game, so kind of like end of 2025.
What is your go-to caffeinated beverage when working on the game?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a snob. I really like filter coffee. I have an AeroPress, and then when in the summer I'll use that to make a like Japanese iced coffee, like the AeroPress straight over ice. And then during winter, just revert back to the like hot mug of coffee. But I know Australians don't really like the kind of like watery filter coffee, but that might be the most like sicko thing about me, right? Not the not the occult stuff. The fact that I'm an Australian who likes watery filter coffee.